The town of Eldermist was a place where time seemed to stand still. Nestled between rolling hills and a dense forest, it was a quiet, unremarkable town where nothing extraordinary ever happened. The townsfolk went about their lives in a predictable rhythm, and the most exciting event of the year was the annual harvest festival. But beneath the surface of this mundane existence lay a secret so profound that it had been erased from the memories of everyone who lived there. Everyone, that is, except for a young man named Elias. Elias was an oddity in Eldermist. He was a dreamer, a wanderer, and often lost in thought. While others were content with their simple lives, Elias felt a restlessness he couldn't explain. He would often find himself staring at the old clock tower in the center of town, its hands frozen at 11:59. No one could remember when it had stopped, or why it had never been repaired. But Elias felt a strange connection to it, as if it held a clue to the emptiness he felt inside. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Elias found himself drawn to the forest. He had always been warned to stay away from it. The forest has a way of making people forget, the elders would say. But Elias couldn't shake the feeling that the answers he sought lay within its shadowy depths. As he ventured deeper into the forest, the air grew colder, and the trees seemed to close in around him. The further he went, the more he felt a strange sensation, as if he were walking through a dream. Memories that weren't his own flickered at the edges of his mind. Faces he didn't recognize, places he had never been, and a voice calling his name. Suddenly, he stumbled upon a clearing. In the center stood an ancient tree, its gnarled branches twisting toward the sky. At its base was a small, weathered stone with an inscription that sent a shiver down his spine. To remember what was forgotten, one must forget what was remembered. Elias reached out to touch the stone, and as his fingers brushed against it, a flood of memories overwhelmed him. He saw the town of Eldermist as it once was, a vibrant, bustling place filled with laughter and life. He saw the clock tower working, its hands moving steadily. And he saw her, a girl with fiery red hair and emerald green eyes. Her name was Lila. Lila had been his best friend, his confidant, and the only person who truly understood him. They had shared everything, dreams, secrets, and a bond that transcended time. But something had happened, something terrible. Elias couldn't quite grasp the memory, but he felt a deep sense of loss and guilt. As the visions faded, Elias realized the truth. The town had been cursed. A powerful entity, angered by the actions of the townsfolk long ago, had erased their memories and trapped them in an endless cycle of forgetfulness. The clock tower, frozen in time, was a symbol of their stagnation. And Lila, she had been sacrificed to seal the curse, her existence wiped from everyone's minds. Everyone, that is, except Elias. He had been meant to forget, but something had gone wrong. Perhaps it was his connection to Lila, or perhaps it was his restless spirit that refused to let go. Whatever the reason, he was the only one who remembered. Determined to break the curse and bring Lila back, Elias returned to the town. He began to piece together the fragments of his memories, searching for a way to undo what had been done. He visited the elders, hoping they might recall something, but they only looked at him with blank stares. He scoured the town's archives, but the records were incomplete, as if someone had deliberately removed the pages. Frustrated and desperate, Elias turned to the one place he had avoided, the clock tower. He climbed the creaking stairs, each step echoing in the silence. When he reached the top, he found himself face to face with a frozen clock. As he stared at it, he felt a strange pull, as if the tower itself was alive. "What do you want from me?" Elias whispered. To his astonishment, The clock began to tick. The hands moved slowly at first, then faster, until they were spinning wildly. The tower shook, and a blinding light enveloped Elias. When the light faded, he found himself standing in a different version of Eldermist, a version where the curse had never happened. The town was alive with activity. Children played in the streets, vendors called out to passers-by, and the clock tower chimed merrily. And there, standing in the middle of the square, was Lila. She looked exactly as he remembered, her red hair catching the sunlight, her green eyes sparkling with mischief. She turned to him and smiled, and for a moment, Elias felt whole again. "You came back," she said. "I never forgot you," Elias replied, his voice trembling. But as he reached out to her, the world began to unravel. The vibrant colors faded, the sounds of laughter turned to silence, and Lila's form began to dissolve. "No!" Elias cried, clutching at the air. "Don't go!" But it was too late. The vision shattered, and he was back in the cursed Eldermist, standing alone in the clock tower. The hands of the clock were frozen once more, and the town was as quiet as ever. Elias sank to his knees, tears streaming down his face. He had been so close, but the curse was too strong. It seemed that no matter what he did, he could never bring Lila back. Or so he thought. As he sat there defeated, a voice echoed in his mind, a voice he hadn't heard in years. It was Lila's voice, soft and reassuring. "You don't have to break the curse, Elias," she said. "You just have to remember." And with those words, Elias understood. The curse wasn't just about forgetting, it was about losing hope. The townsfolk had given up on their dreams, their passions, and their connections to one another. They had become shells of their former selves, content to live in a world devoid of meaning. But Elias was different. He had never stopped dreaming, never stopped searching. And in doing so, he had kept Lila's memory alive. She wasn't gone, she was a part of him, a part of the town's collective soul. All he had to do was remind the others of what they had lost. With renewed determination, Elias set out to awaken the town. He began by sharing his memories with those who would listen, painting vivid pictures of the past and reigniting their sense of wonder. At first they were skeptical, but as he spoke, something stirred within them, a faint glimmer of recognition. One by one, the townsfolk began to remember. The clock tower started to tick again, its hands moving steadily toward midnight. And as the final chime rang out, the curse was broken. Eldermist came alive once more, its streets filled with laughter and light. And there, standing in the middle of the square, was Lila. She smiled at Elias, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You did it," she said. Elias shook his head. "We did it. Together." And as they embraced, the town of Eldermist began to heal, its people rediscovering the joy of living. The curse was gone, but its lesson remained, that even in the darkest of times, hope and love could never truly be forgotten. For Elias, the journey had been long and painful, but it had been worth it. He had found what he had been searching for, not just Lila, but a sense of purpose. And as he looked out over the vibrant town, he knew that he would never stop remembering. 'Cause some things are too important to forget.